climate change is real and is impacting our food supply. The EPA states that agriculture and fisheries are very dependent on certain climate conditions. In 2008, the Mississippi River flooded just before the harvest period of many crops, causing an estimated loss of $8 billion for farmers. Changing precipitation levels have a global impact on food supply, and farmers lose billions.
Hello everybody, welcome to Thursday Night Live, your favorite host, Morgan Hoppin. Today we have a few climate scientists on our show to talk to us about how climate change is affecting our food supply. We have our first scientist, Brooke, to talk to us about how people are using different ways of farming to adjust to these changes. Brooke, what new farming methods are people using to solve these climate change issues?
One method is dry farming, which you have to rely on the moisture which the crops rely on the moisture of the soil to feed them.
Are there any other methods being used?
Yes. Another method is drip irrigation, which brings water straight to its crops and can save up to 80% of the water. By doing this, you can grow much more crops in various climates.
Thank you. So has anybody tested out these new methods yet?
Yes, many farmers in New Mexico are using these methods. They're splitting their fields into sections, and using drip irrigation.
Thank you. Thank you for your time on our show today. It was very much needed information. So we have our next climate scientist, Josh, on our show today. Hello everybody, here's our last and final guest, Josh, today to talk to us about how Gmos and hormones in crops are affecting our food supply. So how are they doing that, Josh?
See, these hormones that we are using to benefit us, they are being washed off in our rainwater, and they sort of have a boomerang effect. So what happens is, when they wash off into our rainwater, they go into our food supply and our water supply, and we then ingest those foods and waters, and then we are the ones affected.
I see. Is there any way we can prevent these occurrences from happening?
We could use less hormones or fertilizers to benefit us for our foods. But if we do that, then as you can see, it wouldn't benefit us. But at the same time, it's bad because of the rainwater.
I see. So thank you for your time on the show today, Josh. Everybody give Josh a round of applause. Next up on our show is Kevin Hart and Will Ferrell battling it out in the Rap Battle Championship. But before they can step into the ring, we have a short commercial. Thank you.
The ice caps are melting. Sea levels are rising. Islands will disappear. Species will live in fear of going extinct.
Carbon dioxide levels are too high.
Venice is underwater.
Earth is getting submerged slowly.
The giant geckos have gone extinct!
Is it true that rising sea levels are causing all of this?
Yes, humans are contributing to this every day, and eventually the rising sea levels will kill animals by submerging their environments and affect coastal environments worldwide significantly. The Earth is slowly flooding due to how much human pollution contributes to global climate change.
There are 4 big contributions: electricity consumption, transportation, building, and deforestation. Burning fossil fuels emits a lot of CO2 and unfortunately generates 85% of the energy and electricity worldwide. Cars, buses, boats, and planes come second because they are daily modes of transportation. Then cement production, along with iron and steel manufacturing, makes up about 2% of our CO2 production. Not a big number, but still a significant factor. The act of deforestation doesn't create CO2, but trees are the leading consumer of carbon dioxide, so levels have increased immensely with the loss of trees.
What is happening in our atmosphere is that the CO2 emitted into our environment from the burning of fossil fuels and cars putting harmful greenhouse gases into the environment, destroying the ozone layer and also killing plants. These changes are also affecting our weather a great deal.
So what will happen if this continues?
If this keeps happening, water level will rise even more and the earth will become really polluted. So we need to take a stand. Animal species will start to disappear, and even more in areas of low land will become more flooded due to the melting of the ice sheets in the southern and north poles.
What tools can we use to cut down on this epidemic?
Every year we are increasing in water rise and carbon dioxide pollution. To stop this, we can use solar technology as well as other manufactured tools. We can also use a lot of materials using electric, such as cars. Two places that are being affected by this are Cape Verde and Cape Cod. Temperature and precipitation make up climate. These two places are below sea level too, so they are at greater risk, and they are also right on the ocean. There is less and less land each year due to precipitation. Good? I think that's good, and that's a wrap.
episode of International Geographic. A big topic concerning all the world is the melting of glaciers. The big question today is if melting glaciers are causing sea levels and pool levels to rise. And the answer is yes. We have a few scientists here to help us understand and explain what's happening. First, we have Bree. Hey, Bree.
Hello, Lydia. I'm a climate scientist and have plenty of information to share. First of all, average temperatures in the Arctic are rising twice as fast as they are elsewhere on Earth, and the world's ice sheets are melting fast, as this graph shows how Arctic temperatures have increased greatly. People are losing their homes. This not only has grave consequences for wildlife and plants, its most serious impact may be rising sea levels.
That's very interesting.
Also, climate change has become a huge problem on Earth recently, and has been the cause of many serious problems. One of the most noticeable problems has been the melting of glaciers all around the world. Not only are we losing some of our national parks, such as Glacier National Park, but we are adding to the sea level. It has become so serious that eventually the poles will melt and raise the sea level when the climate in the Arctic and Antarctic region become warmer.
What are some of the places that could be affected by the rising sea levels? Could any of the bodies land possibly sink?
There are many places that are currently being affected by climate and the rising sea levels, and in many places that could be affected by rising sea levels in the future. Some of the most affected places include Jakarta, Indonesia's capital. Jakarta is rapidly sinking into the Java Sea as a result of climate change. Another very important city that is sinking is Shanghai, one of the world's biggest centers of trade. This city could possibly lose its important infrastructure and the Kingfisher Reservoir, its main source of fresh water, putting this country and one surrounding it into a state of panic.
What are some of the things we could do to control these climate changes?
Even the little things can slow down climate change, such as unplugging electronics when they're not in use and buying more organic foods. Even from supporting or donating to different organizations can help. One of the best organizations you can donate to is the David Suzuki Foundation, which is working very hard to find solutions to climate change and needs financial aid from citizens in order to get as valuable information as it can.
Awesome, thank you for coming, Barry.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye.
Next, we have Jared video chatting all the way from the Amazon rainforest. Welcome and thanks for coming.
Well, the deforestation of the Amazon rainforest in Brazil is causing most of the environmental problems in the world. The people are burning down forests, which is deforestation, and this releases poisonous gases called CO2. It pollutes and heats the air. The deforestation is releasing 1.5 billion tons of carbon dioxide. If the worst happens and the burning of trees goes out of control, then even more trees will burn down than what is expected. And this will release more poisonous heated gases. Soon enough, we will destroy our Earth. Now the air pollution will heat the atmosphere and melt glaciers and other frozen landforms.
Travel worldwide and create global climate change. Frozen landmarks such as the Greenland ice sheet, which has receded 200 cubic kilometers per year, raising sea level. Since the water isn't salt water, it will cause vital currents to stop flowing and melt more northern polar ice caps and pretty much melt the poles. For instance, the North Atlantic Ocean currents has slowed down due to the vast increase of fresh water entering the Atlantic. Also, in an average year, about 5,000 cubic kilometers of fresh water flows from the Arctic into the northern Atlantic through passages located east and west of Greenland and into other areas. When islands and glaciers sink, it causes the water level to rise, just like when you put ice cubes in a glass of water. In the Canary Islands, there are thousands of islands that are sinking. These islands are situated on a subduction zone, causing the level to rise as the islands gradually sink. When the glaciers melt and sink away into the ocean, they usually sink faster than islands. They raise the sea level by about 2.5 to 2.6 inches. The islands could raise the sea level to 16 inches in the next couple of years as the sea level rises. Glaciers usually melt off mountains and other cold climate areas, unlike islands such as the Canary Islands. To help, people could do simple things like turn off the lights when they leave the house, buy solar panels from companies like Solar City and other companies.
Thank you so much. Lastly, we have Aaron, the conservation scientist, to explain what he found. He's Skyping from Johava Glacier.
Hello Lydia, thanks for having me. Glaciers like this are melting at an alarming rate. Melting is natural, but it is made up by snowing and causing ice to reform on the top. The glaciers play a crucial role in global warming because they act like mirrors that deflect the sun from the surface, and it goes back into the atmosphere.
Where is this happening?
Today in the Himalayas, people are facing water shortages due to decreased glacial meltage.
What is this affecting?
There are some effects to glaciers sinking, like corals. Corals require sunlight for photosynthesis to survive, but as the sea level rises from glaciers melting, not enough sunlight reaches these corals. This will lead to the corals' deterioration and death. Many marine species that depend on the corals for food will also die, or even become extinct. Also, there are many animals, birds, and fish that are highly dependent on glaciers for their survival. Polar bear. The large predator is dying because the Arctic sea ice on which the animals hunt is progressively disappearing during the summer. Sea ice is reforming later in the fall and disappearing earlier in the spring. As the Arctic sea ice retreats, polar bears have to exploit alternative food resources such as land as the glaciers melt away.
What can we do to help?
To help global warming decrease, you can try alternate ways of energy, like there are many alternate energy technologies available. Solar panels are made up of solar cells that trap the heat from the sun and convert it into energy. Wind turbines are towers that use kinetic energy from the wind to generate power, and you can also use biofuels such as ethanol that can be produced in your backyard. Even little things can help the environment, such as you can carpool, bicycle, walk, or jog.
Thank you so much for coming, Aaron, and everyone else. Join us next week on International Geographic.
Hi, my name is Rachel. Welcome to Good Morning Science. On today's show, we're going to be talking about a big change happening on Earth. Earth's climate has been changing for a while now, but recently we began to ask the question, is human activity affecting climate change? The scientists here at Good Morning Science believe so. To begin, we have Logan Hawks, our climate scientist.
Why, hello, Rachel. I am thrilled to be on the show today to let our fellow Americans know about climate change.
We're thrilled to have you too. Now, what's going on with Earth's climate?
The Earth's climate has been changing for hundreds of millions of years, as you may know. Over the past few years, though, a sudden change in climate can be noticed throughout all areas of the world. The article, World of Change, Global Temperatures, states that from the Industrial Revolution, the average global temperature has changed by about 1.4 degrees Fahrenheit since 1880. 2/3 of that warming, in fact, occurred since 1975. At a rate of roughly 0.15 to 0.20 degrees Celsius. This change in climate is no mere coincidence, may I add you. It is because of us humans. Did you know that, Rachel?
I didn't.
Well, now you do. Carbon emissions, be it from cars or power plants, increase the amount of heat trapped within the Earth's atmosphere because it is a greenhouse gas. Although large amounts of carbon being released has happened before, over 50 million years ago, in fact, in the Eocene era. In fact, because of this, Antarctica could have plants and even animals living on it, and this may happen again because of us. Climate change, although, does not only mean that some areas of the world are heating. Cape Cod, since 2008, has been experiencing what is called a cold trend, where the area has colder temperatures compared to the average climate.
Now, what's the reason for this cold trend?
Well, Rachel, I'm about to tell you. The reason for this is when the Arctic areas are heated, cold winds are sent from an area out into the ocean. This then leads to pockets of the cold air, creating what is called a polar vortex. This is how large blizzards and snowstorms are formed when the atmosphere, in reality, is heating. Now, don't you hate those blizzards on Cape Cod, Rachel?
I really do.
Well, this could be fixed if we just stopped heating up the world with our terrible behaviors. Just because some areas of the world are still receiving snow does not mean climate change is a hoax, as some people would believe. Another area that has been affected by human activity is the Arctic Peninsula. Large ice shelves have been collapsing from the shoreline because of us and our climate change. At the rate the Arctic is melting, most, if not all, the glacier ice will melt by the year 2100. This will kill tens of thousands of animals, as well as raise the sea level by an extremely large amount. This will result in receding shorelines, the loss of the Gulf Stream, and the depletion of habitat. This and more, all the result of us.
Now, do you think there's any solutions for the climate change?
Why, Rachel? There are. There are a couple things that we could do. To begin with, we can work our way into the elimination of burning of fossil fuels. We could do this by using wind and solar energy. We could really only drive on electric cars, and solar panels would have to, provide energy for every single house. In the end, it could make a big difference. Also, some green energy companies that you can find on Cape Cod and Bourne are Katuit Solar LCC and Cape Cod Green Energy.
That's great. Now I heard you went out on the streets and asked Americans what they think about climate change.
Why, yes, I did. And let's go over to Hello, I'm Logan Hawks from Good Morning Science, and may I ask your opinion on climate change?
Well, it's definitely a problem because climate is warming up, but there's definitely more important problems like wars and many other things.
Thank you for your time. Hello, I'm Logan Hawks from Good Morning Science, and I want to ask you about climate change. Can I get your name?
My name is Madison Fleur.
All right, now, can you please get your opinion on climate change?
Well, I definitely think it's a problem.
What do you think about it? Do you think that it's a real thing that's happening?
It's definitely a real thing that's happening. Okay. There's definitely...
Do you think that we have ways to stop it?
Of course.
What would you believe one of these ways could be?
Well, I mean, less pollution would definitely be one of the ways to stop it.
That's a great idea. Thank you for your information.
Our conservation scientist Maria Mendez is not able to make it to film, but she has submitted a statement. She says, "We all prefer to go for a drive around town instead of walking or going for a bike ride, but that's not the smartest thing to do. Transportation has caused many problems in the environment. 15% of global CO2 comes from transportation, and if these levels keep rising, our Earth will be too hot to live on. Another problem Earth is forced to face is deforestation. 20 to 25% of Earth's carbon dioxide comes from deforestation and land use. Cutting down trees and diminishing useful resources from forests affects people living in poverty because they depend on these resources. Animal life would be wiped out and oxygen levels would decrease due to the lack of plants. If oxygen levels decrease, this only means that CO2 levels are rising, warming the Earth to uncomfortable temperatures. One last problem that we put Earth through is industrialization. Industrialization, as we all know, is very bad for the environment. 15% of Earth's CO2 comes from industry, and 12% of the U.S.'s greenhouse gases come from it also, causing climate change. To conserve these resources, instead of going for a drive to the beach on hot summer days, consider riding your bike or walking there. Nowadays, there are cars that don't even run on gas, although they are very expensive. We will see how this works out in the future. If you're going to the beach, it's probably a beautiful day to ride your bike or walk with a friend anyway. To decrease deforestation, we have to nurture our land and make sure it stays healthy. A part of this process is making sure that trees are alive and giving off oxygen. We can't do this alone, though. We must encourage markets and corporations to stop harming our forests and save them. The last way to conserve our resources is to reduce industry as much as possible. Of course, industry has been a part of our lives for a very long time, but if we try to lower the amount of industrialization, we will be saving Earth for a brighter future. It's difficult to stop industry since it happens everywhere, but lowering the amount of fossil fuels and limiting the amount of packaging will slowly but surely sustain our resources. We'd like to thank Maria for doing this. We know it's something she's been working on for a while now. Now to wrap up the show, we have Sean DiCarlo. He's currently out on a research trip, but we were able to get a camera crew out to him today.
Hello, Rachel. I'm so excited we're airing this story today. I've been working on it for so long now. I'm here to talk to you about the climate change affecting the environment and what humans have to do with it. There's an overpopulation and our supplies are running short, as Maria explained. Motor vehicle exhaust and the factory industries are the #1 pollutants. Right now, forests cover 30% of our land. In Panama, due to a growing population, there's an increase in demand for supplies. Trees are being cut down, and the massive produce of resources and plastics are creating a global crisis of waste disposal. Human activity is leading to the extinction of species and habitats. Air pollution affects the environment and all who inhabit it. Fertilizer runoff and oil spills all damage fragile ecosystems. There are 3.5 million deaths every year from household pollution and 3.3 million deaths every year due to outside pollution. Large landfills, waste from food processing industries, and nuclear waste generated from nuclear reactors are depleting our soil. All this pollution builds up and creates greenhouse gases that fill our atmosphere. Most pollution is caused by humans producing ice and burning fuels.
I have two questions. One, how does this affect the animals? And two, what can we do to What can we do to change this?
Well, think about a mountain. At the top of our mountains, we have a colder environment. At the bottom, we have a warmer environment. The animals at the bottom of the mountain are used to the temperature. Same goes for the animals at the top. Once the temperatures start changing, the animals move up the mountain. The animals moving up the mountain are adapting to these new temperatures. As they move up, some animals will be superior to the others and boot them out of their zones. We are trying to change the way the wildlife is to better ourselves, but it isn't helping the environment. We need to stop burning fuels and get our pollution to a minimum. We are destroying our wildlife, which is depleting our ecosystem. It is to help stop this, you can be energy efficient and unplug your device when you're done with it. Also, you can buy locally grown organic foods. Try to travel on airplanes less because they leave a huge carbon footprint. Keep your stuff out of landfills and recycle paper. Plastic, glass, and metal. Use the least energy that you can to stop climate change. Ask your utility to switch to renewable power. Or, to sum it up, as you know, we are all using too much energy and it is impacting the ecosystem and the climate.
Thank you so much, Sean. I'll call my utility tonight. We can also just simply recycle. Today we learned as humans we need to make some big changes. What we're doing now is changing our climate big time. This is mainly due to the production of greenhouse gases filling up our atmosphere. So let's change this now. Solar panels on every house, electric cars rolling down the street, conserving our resources. Let's go change the world for a better future. Thank you for tuning into Channel 14 for Good Morning Science.